What would you say is one of the biggest ethical challenges that we face coming out of school and into the workforce as PR professionals?
I think one of the biggest challenges the dilemma between advocacy and public interest. I think sometimes many people in public relations might think they have to agree in everything with their employer, and most likely sometimes it won't happen, and sometimes you definitely have a ethical rift with your employer, and that's something that you have to figure it out. Like you can counsel your client, but there are limits for your counseling, and there are limits for what you can do in a company or an organization. I think that's a big dilemma now, if especially in our time when companies and organizations are more political and they are doing a lot of corporate political things. And I think it's something that every PR practitioner and young PR practitioners have to think about it, like the dilemma between public interest and the interest of your company or organization.
So, to speak to that, how would you advise a student,
Mhm.
or at that time, someone in the workforce, to follow on that? So, would it be leaving a job, or how would they address that? Something
Yeah.
practical they can do.
I think you have to be aware of your company's and organization's interest, and if you can influence for a good change within your limits, of course. And but you have to be like asking yourself very often, if this is the right place or not. And also you have to ask yourself before taking the job. Um, Most likely companies want to are working for the bottom lines. If they are corporations or they are organizations, they have a clear uh, goals and ideals from the beginning before you get that. The whole idea is that you are informed before getting a job and not be surprised for whatever happens and know your limits beforehand. And that would be my practical advice.
Okay. And then being international yourself and
Yeah.
maybe performing PR on an international level, have you ever run into an ethical dilemma where
Mhm.
maybe the ethical values that we hold here are
Yeah.
different than that of the country that you're working with?
Yeah. Good question. Um, I think when you work in international issues, um, you have to understand, for example, the idea that we have in El Salvador about immigration and the idea that some people in the United States have about immigration are completely different. For example, I think the experience in Latin America, especially in El Salvador and Central America, is that immigration is a process, is a process of reuniting families or escaping from poverty, escaping from violence, while sometimes for specific stakeholders, undocumented immigration is wrong and it's about law enforcement. And those are really complicated dilemma. When I was here is how you communicate the message of our people or our government, the Salvadoran government in that case, that immigration is about people who want to reunite, to some stakeholders who believe it's about enforcing the borders and law abiding or not. And that was complicated because you have to find a middle ground between your cultural background and the cultural message with the stakeholders' perspective. And it's not a zero zoom. They can be compromised, but you have to be aware. That might be one of the examples of how dilemmas between different publics, the Salvadoran public and the American public.
Mm.
And there are inside the American U.S. general public, there are many sub-publics and many perspectives, but that might be my example, like how complicated it was to communicate immigration as a family reunification process instead of a criminal and something like that.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Do you
Yeah.
think you could define for us just what you think ethics is and
Yeah.
how you've approached it?
Good question. It's a philosophical question. And I think ethics is simply understanding what is right and what is wrong for the society and beyond uh, religious perspectives, beyond personal perspectives, is like a proposal of what is right and what is wrong, and what are the limits of right and wrong for the society. because that I think ethics is more than my own personal behavior. It's about how the society should work and function, and that might be my definition of ethic is understanding what is right, what is wrong, from a more rational perspective, from a more rational approach. But I mean, I can write a PhD dissertation about PR and ethics. But the thing is, I think it's important that people are thinking about ethics and public relations, but also that the students know that it's not a clear cut, and the students know that they are not trapped in any company because they don't agree with that company or organizations, and they are free to take decisions and move to another organization or move to another field. And as you might know, as a PR student, what I try to say in my class is that we are giving you transferable skills that you can apply in other fields. Like the things that we are teaching you in public relations is pretty much to have a very open mind, to know how to use the skills, but also know how to move between fields. You can use the same skills you use in public relations for running a campaign, to be a president or be a CEO. I mean, we are teaching you how to prioritize things and to see what is strategic and what is not strategic.